So this week's Parsha is called Teitzei. So Teitzei means when you go out, right? So Teitzei, when you go out. And it's very significant. In this Parsha, we have over 70 mitzvot listed. That's a lot of mitzvot listed in only one Parsha. So Hashem is telling us something. He's telling us, how do you go out when you don't keep my mitzvot, right? When you go out into the world, keep my mitzvot. And also, when you go out, when you don't keep this mitzvot. So it's kind of like that double entendre, right? When you go out, ki titzei, when you go out, remember my mitzvot. They are your guides to bringing more light into your life. But also, when you go out, right? What makes us go out of the world of Hashem is not keeping the mitzvot. So this parsha starts by saying, when you go out to war against your enemies, Hashem, your God, will deliver them into your hands. Now, on the most basic level, Hashem is telling us that as a whole, when we go to war, Hashem doesn't just go with us, but he literally brings the enemies to their knees for us. But if we look deeper, which we always have to, there's a much bigger revelation. One that Hashem wants us to never forget. And that's our own personal wars, right? Everything we struggle with. If there's things we fall prey to, if we want to beat it, Hashem tells us, if you choose to go against it, if you want to beat that which is against my Torah, I will be with you to help you conquer those struggles. This is a parsha that has many laws, meaning mitzvot. That's what a law is. A law is a mitzvah. So one is, do not close your eyes to a suffering animal. Or if you see an animal carrying a load, don't just leave it and abandon it when it's suffering. So again, the laws have different levels. Hashem is telling us to care for a suffering animal, but not just care for the suffering animal. He's telling us we cannot close our eyes to their suffering, meaning we have to actively choose to help them, right? So how much more so do we have to actually help our human beings, right? We get very self-focused and we give endless excuses, right? I'm busy, I have a demanding job, I have work and I have kids, I have work, kids, and a husband, right? Et cetera, et cetera. We could always make excuses as to why we are not putting time into other people's lives, right? We become very self-focused. We become about ourselves, that we don't look around, right? Maybe someone you know is feeling very lonely, or maybe someone you know is hurting, maybe someone's in a dark place. How often do we really check on our friends, right? How often do we gift someone something just for the sake of being like, listen, I was just randomly thinking about you and I got you this. Or you know what? You just pick up the phone and go, hey, I just wanted to say hi. You know, I don't have that much time to talk, but I just want to check in, see how you're doing. How often do we actually do that? We become very, very self-absorbed. How many compliments do we really give on a daily basis, right? The Parsha is telling us it's not a good enough reason to be busy, right? We have to actively participate in our loved ones' lives. In this Parsha, Hashem uses animals to teach us lessons, right? And it's not just in our loved ones, right? Because it's not telling us this animal that you consider part of your family, don't let it suffer. It's any animal in the world, meaning when you walk through life, if you see someone, gather them in, meaning see them, say hi to them with a smile on your face. You could change their whole day. Give them a compliment, give them something. You see someone who maybe is at the cash register and can't pay for something, and you have a bit of extra money in your life, give it to them. Give it to them. Know that everyone around you needs some help in some way or form. And if you're around them, it means you have the ability to help them. Another way that Hashem tells us things through animals in this parsha is that one of the laws is that an ox and a donkey are not allowed to work the field together. So again, you could read that, very simple, meaning the ox, the donkey, don't let them work the field together. But if you just do that, you're missing the valuable core teaching, which Hashem is telling us that everyone has a different energy, right? He's telling us the donkey and the ox don't mix well. He's telling us that those two forces together create something negative. Don't force them together, right? So sometimes two people have very different energies, and the best strategy is not to put them in the same room. It's not to try to make them become best friends. It's to know their boundaries. It's to know their limits. This applies a lot to also parents, right? Sometimes a parent just wants their kid to be friends with their friends' kids, but maybe that kid doesn't belong in that friend group. He doesn't mesh energy-wise, and the parents keep forcing it. And now this kid feels that he has no friends, or that he he can't get along with people, but really it's just he's in the wrong energy space. So it's very important to consider that if Hashem knows that an ox and a donkey have different energies, how much more so with us humans, that Hashem goes, you know what? You guys are each created differently. And some of you have ox energy and some of you have donkey energy. And that means that sometimes both of you should not work together. Sometimes these two people should not come together for a marriage. Sometimes these two people should not be friends. And not friends doesn't mean we're enemies. Not friends means there's not this constant communication. There's not this constant putting you together in a room, because all you're going to get is negative. All you're going to get is disaster. So it's very important, for parents, always remember, don't force a child into a circle. But even if you're not a parent, or even if you are, but just for yourself, don't force yourself into a circle. Sometimes life gives us very clear indications you are not in the right place. And you keep kind of banging your head against the wall. And Hashem is just telling you, you need to get out of here. This isn't your right energy. And you keep forcing yourself through this door. And you're like, why? Why is this so hard? And maybe, and this is not always, right? Because everything has its own exceptions. Just maybe this is not the place for you energetically. So understand that Hashem knows that we are created differently. And sometimes we do have to respect those boundaries, right? So Hashem sees the ox, he sees the donkey. He's not saying, listen, an ox is too important to hang out with a donkey or vice versa. He sees each of them and he's just telling you, I know their differences and I know how special they each are. And in order for them to be as special as they can be, they cannot work together. So he's just trying to bring out what's the best in us, right? Another law taught is that you have to return a lost object. So in specific, it mentions that you shall not see the ox of your brother or his sheep cast off and hide yourself from them. So what did I just say? He's saying the law very much says that if you see an ox or you see sheep, right, that is your brothers, meaning your fellow human, your fellow Jew, and they lost their sheep or they lost their ox, you cannot just be like, oh, didn't see them, I don't want to bring them in, that's too much work. You have to take it upon yourself to return it to them. You shall return it to your brother. So this law has to do a lot with the Jewish people. So again, you could read it just as is, right? You see a lost sheep, return it, or you can take it on a deeper level, right? We live in an age where we rationalize everything. People refuse to see Hashem in everything. And we like to use words like science and coincidence. And there's a reason why it specifically mentions sheeps, right? Because that's what many Jews do. They assimilate, they follow the herd, and they become like sheep. When the commandment says, if you see your brother's sheep, don't hide yourself, return them. What it's really saying is don't allow your fellow Jew to assimilate. Don't let them intermarry. Don't let them abandon Hashem. Bring them back to their rightful owner, to Hashem, to Torah, to their truth. We rationalize, right? And sometimes we need someone to come snap us out of that realization, right? There's a reason why Hashem put the word sheep. He's saying, don't be like sheep. And if your fellow Jew falls into the trap and he's following something that he shouldn't follow, bring him back to who? To himself, to who? To Hashem. So the Torah doesn't separate us because God is an elitist. Hashem separates us so that we have true unity, right? Anytime a Jew assimilates in any way, shape, or form, down the line, they can't see the effect, but they're going farther away from Hashem. It's that simple. So the Parasha literally tells us also that a man cannot wear a woman's clothing and a woman should not wear a man's clothing. How significant is that in today's day and age? It's telling us that men should never look feminine. Right. And this is a very important thing because there's many laws that there's no reason to them. But Hashem tells us there's a reason that you can't see. This is beyond your understanding. Right. And in today's society, we want to say, no, if a man wants to be more feminine, that's OK. No, it's not. Men becoming more feminine has led to women having to become more masculine because that role has to be fulfilled. And then the woman and the man are each having a miserable time because they're not in their true essence power. Right. The man has to be the man and the woman has to be the woman. But now we're melding those energies. This is a parsha that talks a lot about the hidden energies, right? When a woman has to take in the role of man and has to be the main provider and has to be the main everything for everyone and has to be the one who makes the decisions and everything in the family, she starts emasculating herself, meaning that the man in the relationship then has to start feminizing himself, and that creates for really bad energy, both health-wise and also mentally, meaning physical health and also emotional health. So we also have a prohibition against wearing wool and linen at the same time. And again, this makes no sense to us, right? Why it doesn't matter if I wear the material of wool and linen at the same time. So there's been a study done, and it's amazing because sometimes after the study, we're like, okay, now that the study's here, I get it. But we have to understand that even when we don't get it, it's true, right? So the study showed different people wearing different items of clothing, different materials, and depending on the material they were wearing, the frequency of their spheric energy around them, like with the three-dimensional kind of color, the thermal color thing, would change, and it would get higher or lower depending on the material they were wearing. If they wore cotton, it would go up. If they wore polyester, it would go completely down. When they mixed wool and linen together, the energy turned into chaos energy. So we may not understand the commandments, but know that they are there for a reason. And we can't think, well, since I don't get it and I think it's ridiculous, I just won't keep it. That means you consider yourself above Hashem. And these are the moments where we show Hashem, He is King, He is our God, He is one, right? We say, Hashem, I know that as a human being, I don't get this law, but I'll keep it for you. That's what we're supposed to say. Just because it's a commandment you gave me, that's why I keep it, right? It's important to always remember, we are here on this earth, if we're lucky, 120 years. And then the rest of the time, we are souls. So Hashem brings us down here for the purpose of elevating our souls. So don't let your heart be led by this world, right? Don't become a sheep. Don't leave Torah. Don't go out. Don't leave. Keep the ways of Hashem. Keep to the path your soul truly wants. When we're feeling down and we're feeling negative and we're not feeling good, it's because we are farther away from the light of Torah, meaning farther away from Hashem. It's not enough to wake up, live life, and then someone goes, oh, I believe in Hashem. What do you mean? Do you actively practice the art or the act of believing in Hashem, right? Do you talk to Hashem every day? And not just like a 5-minute, hey Hashem, by the way, I would really like this, or hey Hashem, thank you for doing that. That was nice. That's great. But are you having deep conversations with Hashem, right? Hashem always does things in this world to mirror our relationship with Him. And the most mirror that we can get is two relationships, that of parents and children, and that of husband and wife. Mirrors our relationship with Hashem. What kind of parent can truly have a relationship with their child if they don't talk, right? If they're not talking, what kind of relationship is there? Same thing with a husband and a wife. If they're not talking to each other, what kind of relationship are they having? There isn't one. So if you think that talking to your husband for 10 minutes a day creates a relationship, then that's where the disconnect is with Hashem. You have to say, wait, I want to talk to my partner with deep conversations. I want to talk to them about life. I want to be able to talk to them for like 3 hours if I have to. That's what you want to do. You want to say, okay, am I working on my relationship with Hashem? Am I seeing Him? Am I trying? Am I learning Torah? Torah is the first key into opening our hearts. So we have rationalized away our souls for the human mind and the human heart, for this tiny bit of pleasure. Our souls will never be okay if we go out of Torah. And maybe it's someone we'd like to hear, but it's truth, right? Hashem is kind. Never think, you know what, if Hashem didn't want me to do this, then He wouldn't give me the opportunity. Hashem gives you the opportunity to do whatever you want, right? Hashem gave you every tool. He made Torah accessible to you. He has given you the language of your soul, and you have to learn how to read it, and you have to learn how to speak it, and you have to choose to say, I'm going to practice this. I'm going to be observant in the ways of Hashem. Because at the end of the day, this is what this parasha is telling us. And it's no mystery. This is the parashas that are leading us up to Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. It's telling us, how do we enter a year where we don't go out, where we don't go out of our Torah? We start understanding the deep significance of the mitzvot, that Hashem cares how we treat each other. Hashem cares that we are kind to each other. And it's not just about being kind, but it's also about the laws that go in a different direction than that, right? Don't intermarry. Don't bring yourself to places that you shouldn't be. Treating your fellow Jew kindly and treating someone who's not a Jew kindly is very important, and it's very high up there. But just because you are able to do that, it doesn't take away from the other mitzvot. We don't know which mitzvah is higher than the other. We don't get a scale and put, okay, I'm gonna put Shabbat, I'm gonna put being kind, and which one's more holds more weight in Shamayim. We don't know. The answer is we have to try our hardest wherever we can. And don't forget that in this Parasha, what Hashem is really telling us is look deeper at my laws, because all my laws have a meaning more than you guys know. And I'm only here to bring more light into your life, more balance, right? We read the mitzvah of wool and linen, and we're like, okay, fine, I won't mix wool and linen. But then you have this study that kind of shows you the true effect that it has mixing wool and linen in your body, and you're suddenly like, oh, I definitely don't want to do it now. Understand that even though we can't understand all the laws, they all have such deep significance and they all bring more light into our lives. And it's also about knowing that we all make mistakes. We are all doing things we shouldn't do. Hence, we're here. It's not about hating someone because they did something they shouldn't do. It's about believing in them enough to know that they can change. It's about knowing that Hashem can do anything, that no one has gone so far off the path that they can't come back on. And it's not about saying, oh, you're doing this, I'm done with you, you're a bad person. No, you're not what you do, right? Hashem gives us this ability. He tells us this is the greatest kindness. He says, if you choose to change, I'm there. I'm there to help you. Remember the beginning where it says, when you will go out to war against your enemies, Hashem, your God, will deliver them into your hand. And he's talking about our personal struggles. When we go to war against something that's hard for us, right? Whether it's someone who has been dating someone who is not Jewish, that's a personal, you're going to war against your enemy, which is yourself. Hashem goes, you want to change this, you know what's wrong, but you don't know how to get out, talk to me, tell me, I'm going to help you, right? You're not keeping Shabbat and you really want to keep Shabbat because you know what's right. Tell Hashem, keeping Shabbat is way too hard, I don't even understand it, help me see it. Hashem is telling you, tell me your struggles, tell me your wars, and I will walk you through them. We have to choose to bring Hashem into our lives. If we think that we are higher and we don't need Hashem's help, that's what Hashem will do. He listens to us. He says, you want to do it yourself? Go ahead. But I'll tell you right now, this world is much easier with Hashem.